Alright lads, welcome to this quick review on the Leopard 1A5 Norwegian, or NO. This is the newest Rank 6 premium added to the Swedish tech tree, available for Golden Eagles. Like all of the other Leopard 1A5s in War Thunder, it's located at battle rating 9.0, which just like RRB at the minute, the battle ratings between 9.0 and 10.0 are kind of a little bit toxic, with most matches being full up tiers to 10.0, which isn't exactly what you're looking for when you're coming to spending pretty much $50 on Golden Eagles for a premium vehicle. Anyway, the Leopard 1A5 NO costs you 8,910 Golden Eagles, which certainly is quite a big investment. This isn't a pack premium, so you do not get any sort of Golden Eagles or premium time alongside the vehicle. To put the tank in your lineup, it will cost you 10,000 Silver Lions, and for the Expert and Ace qualifications, it's 970,000 Silver Lions for the Expert qualification, and 2,100 Golden Eagles for the Ace qualification. With the Swedish 9.3 lineup already being rather bit mediocre, is it actually worth buying this tank? Well, it does have a very powerful gun, but its armor protection, general mobility, and thermal optics does leave a little bit to be desired. But if you'd like to know more about this vehicle lads, stick around for the rest of the video. Alright lads, welcome back. The Leopard 1A5 is powered by an engine producing 830 horsepower. Combined with the vehicle's weight of 42.5 tons, it gives the tank a rather mediocre power to weight ratio of 19.5 horsepower per ton. At 9.0 this isn't too bad I guess, but because you do get up to 10.0 pretty much every game, the Leopard 1A5 does feel very slow. It just feels incredibly heavy. It doesn't accelerate particularly well, and it drives kind of like the Challenger 2s do at much higher battle ratings. Even though this is a medium tank or main battle tank I guess, it feels much more like a Chieftain type main battle tank. It's just it doesn't feel good to play. It just feels sluggish and it's pretty slow. Despite this though, it does have a theoretical top speed of 66 km per hour. However, you will never get there in a normal game, unless you drive off a cliff I suppose. It also has a decent reverse speed of 26 km per hour. The mobility of the Leopard 1A5 is pretty bad in my opinion. It gets pretty much shit on by the CV9105, which we covered in our last video, and again, it just doesn't feel good to drive around. The input feels pretty sluggish, and you just feel incredibly heavy. But mobility is only one of the three main factors of a tank design. What about the armour and survivability? Well, we take a look at this cutaway, we can see that we have a crew of 4 men, with a driver in the front of the vehicle, sat right next to the main ammunition store you'll note, and in the turret, we have the gunner, commander and loader located pretty much all next to each other. This means if you get hit pretty much any in the first half of the tank, you are probably going to be dying in a single hit. The crew and ammunition are concentrated very close together, which basically makes this thing a bit of a death trap. So it's not looking too good on the survivability front. But what about the armour? Well, we don't have any sort of spaced or composite armour on this. It is a Leopard 1A5 after all, basically a slightly modernised Leopard 1. But our lower frontal plate provides 86mm of protection, which again isn't fantastic, especially for battle rating 9.0. Our upper frontal plate is a little bit better, with 120mm of effective armour, but again, this isn't really going to stop any of the rounds being fired at you at this battle rating. And finally, our turret is a little bit better again, at 185mm thick. Overall though lads, the survivability of the Leopard 1A5 is pretty bad. The weak armour, the layout of the crew, and the combination of the poor mobility does make the Leopard 1A5 pretty bad when it comes to brawling and getting up close and personal with an enemy. You're much better playing this tank as a brawler and basically just sticking behind the main thrust of your team really. But survivability has never been the strong suit of the Leopard series of tanks. So what about the firepower? Well, this tank is armed with a 105mm L7A3 cannon. You can carry 60 rounds of ammunition total, however I wouldn't recommend taking that much, and your first stage ammunition rack consists of 14 rounds, stored next to the loader. The gun is also stabilised both the horizontal and vertical planes as you'd expect, and you have pretty good vertical guidance characteristics, with 9 degrees of gun depression and 20 degrees of gun elevation. When stock, we have a reload speed of 8.7 seconds, and with an ace crew, that drops down to 6.7 seconds. This is why it's so important to have a pretty well trained crew at top tier. The tank also has a laser rangefinder, as well as first generation thermal imaging for the gunner's sight. We then come on to the ammunition, and our stock round is the DM12. This is a pretty basic heater fast shell, travelling at 1174 meters per second. However, it can penetrate 400mm of armour. We then have the DM512 Hess shell. This travels much slower, but can penetrate 127mm of armour at all ranges and angles. We then have the DM23 shell. This travels at 1455 meters per second, which is pretty good. And at a range of 500 meters, it can penetrate 330mm of armour. However, it doesn't create that much spalling, which is what matters when it comes to APFSDS rounds. Luckily though, we do have the DM33. This travels at the same speed, but at a range of 500 meters, penetrates much more armour, 398mm. It also creates more spalling, which in turn means more internal damage once you penetrate an enemy. This leads to more reliable one-shot kills, and better damage output in general. Due to the poor mobility, weak armour, and pretty powerful gun, I'd recommend playing this tank as a long-range sniper, or at least a support vehicle for the bigger, badder tanks on your own team. This Leopard just can't take the hits really, and while it does have a good gun, due to the nature of top tier being so mobile now and fast-paced, the Leopard 1A5s have really been knocked down a peg in terms of their competitiveness. The Leopard 1A5s used to be the most OP tanks in War Thunder many years ago, but that era has long gone. But enough of the analysis of the tank itself, let's go more into the meta. So does this tank have a good lineup? Well, Sweden doesn't really have a good 9.0 lineup. Sweden kind of goes from 7.3 straight to 10.0 and then to 11.0. Because of this, the 9.0 lineup is pretty weak. You only have a few vehicles and they are pretty poor. The CV9105, which is probably the best Swedish premium, is 9.3, so you can't really use that anyway. You could up tier this tank, but then it gets even worse in my opinion. The higher the battle rating you go, the more your lack of speed and armour just becomes more and more of a negative. So I'd give it a 2 out of 5 for its lineup. Is the tank new player friendly? Well, it's slow and got weak armour, which immediately marks it down in my opinion. While the tank does have a good gun, as I've said now, it kind of forces you into a limited playstyle of basically being a sniper or a support vehicle. It isn't like a T72 AV Terms or the Leopard 2A4 premiums, which kind of just hold your hand a little bit. So because of this, I'd give it a 2 out of 5. We then come on to the value for money, and when the CV9105 is 0.3 battle rating higher and pretty much outcompetes it in every way, it's hard to argue that someone should buy this instead of the CV9105. So again, I'm going to have to give it a pretty low rating of 2 out of 5. If you can only afford one premium for the Swedish tech tree, or want to know which premium to buy, then the CV9105 is a much better tank in every way. While it has the same firepower and ammunition, it has an autoloader making it faster firing, it's also much faster in terms of mobility, and while its armour is technically weaker, it just makes the vehicle even lighter, which again makes it more mobile. Is the Leopard 105 in the meta? No, it's just not. It's just too slow at top tier. No one actually fights at 9.0 anymore. Literally every game you get will be an up tier to 10.0 or at least 9.7. And again, while the tank is still usable, it's not going to be your breakthrough tank. It's just too slow and too weakly armoured. I'm not really too sure why Guardian have added this vehicle, to be honest, other than just to make a few quick bucks. It's just a copy and paste vehicle after all. But for the meta, I'm probably going to have to give this a 2 out of 5 again. But the saving grace of this tank is the coolness rating, which unfortunately doesn't really have any merit in game. But the tank does look pretty nice, it's got some good camouflages. The Leopard 1A5 in general is a decent looking vehicle no matter what nation it's in, so I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Anyway lads, thank you very much for watching the video. I think the Leopard 1A5 is probably about 2 years too late, to be honest. It should have been added a long time ago. The meta has just become so fast at top tier that it's kind of just left the Leopard 1A5s behind. Even the legendary Leopard 1A5 L44, which used to be the best premium in War Thunder, is now kind of long in the tooth. It has the exact same problems, it's slow, not really that mobile. It does have a good gun, but it's kind of limited by its mobility. While I do appreciate Guardian are trying to pad out the Swedish tech tree a little bit, I don't think adding a premium is a way to go. You probably should have just added a tech tree vehicle, but it is Guardian, need to make the money somehow. Anyway lads, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, and be sure to let me know in the comments down below what vehicles you guys would like to see reviewed next. And I'd just like to say a massive thank you to my YouTube channel members: Wolfie Fly, Joseph Metcalf, Tomster013, Just Someone, Dr. Bob, Deboa LX, Tans, William Tessier, and Lola Alfonsi. Thank you very much for becoming members, lads, and I'll see you in the next review.